want to thank the hard-working jury for their service to the public and their quest for justice and their personal sacrifice for their time and effort. We are not at all upset with them, and neither should the public be upset. They did the best that they could. We are hopeful that Ms. Mosley will retry Officer Porter as soon as possible, and that his next jury will reach a verdict.
Freddie Gray's stepfather right there. Now, lawyers for the prosecution and attorneys for Baltimore police officer William Porter met today in a judge's office to discuss dates for possible retrial. The jury could not agree on Porter's guilt or innocence in the death of Freddie Gray, so the case was declared a mistrial. Where do we go from here? Well, we bring in our panel. Adam Thompson is a criminal defense attorney and host of the nationally syndicated Adam Thompson radio show. Welcome. And Stacy Washington is a conservative radio host on KTFK 97.1 FM in St. Louis. Welcome to you both. How you doing?
Hi, how you doing, Rick?
Doing great. Now, Adam, Officer Porter's attorneys would like to have seen an acquittal, but doesn't a mistrial, you're a criminal defense attorney, doesn't a mistrial usually mean good news for the defense?
Listen, I've been trying cases for over 25 years, and anything other than a conviction is a loss for the prosecution. Because if they can't get the job done, first of all, on a big publicized case like this, it resonates with the public that the prosecutor threw everything that they had under their power and control at the defense in court, and they lost. They couldn't get a conviction. It opens the door now to the defense knowing what every single witness is going to testify if they choose to prosecute this case a second time. And guess what? Not only is the cat out of the bag, but now the defense has a transcript to use against every witness. So any little deviation from their prior testimony, they're going to attack and show inconsistencies. Experts and lay witnesses. So this is a disaster for the prosecution, sends a very bad message.
Well, just a little background for our viewers. Freddie Gray broke his neck in the back of a police van, and Officer Porter checked on Gray but did not call a medic. Stacy, are you surprised by the hung jury? And where does the prosecution go from here? And has this case against all 6 officers really started to unravel?
Well, it seems like it's falling apart. From the position of a person who is not an attorney and doesn't play one on TV, it looks like they overcharged. And when you go overzealously into the prosecution and overcharge, it leaves a lot of room for juries to misinterpret or be unable to get a finding that they can work with. So I agree with what he just said, but even more so that we want to see justice done here no matter what the outcome. And I think Mosley has really done a disservice all the way through this thing. It's been so unprofessionally handled by her. And now here we have this. So it's disappointing for the families. It's disappointing for the officers and the members who are everyone who wants to see what's going on here.
Stacy talked about Justice Adam. If you're representing Officer Porter today, talk about how are you pressing prosecutors to get that settlement? And if there is that settlement, I would imagine that Officer Porter would be used maybe as a state witness in this case. Can you see that happening?
Well, first of all, the big unknown is what the jurors really were thinking and what their final vote was. You know, I've seen countless times where the judges told this jury you can't speak to the defense attorneys. I've done cases where there's been hung juries and then the jurors are in the hallway and you're allowed to talk to them to get their input on the case. You find out that the vote was 11-1 and there was a one lone wolf holdout juror who was a little nuts. So we don't know if it was 11-1 for or against the prosecution. Maybe it was an even split because that plays a very big part. But let's just suppose it's an even split. I'm telling my client right now, listen, they couldn't put you away when we didn't know anything that was going on with their presentation. Now we know the entire thing. We didn't just see the trailer. We saw the whole movie. We know exactly what's going to happen next time around. We could prepare better. We could attack what were weaknesses and strengths better. Everything works in our favor moving forward. And the fact that the jury pool is now going to hear the prosecution failed to get a conviction, they're even subconsciously, even if they don't even realize it, they're affected by hearing that they couldn't get a conviction in the back of their minds. So whoever's sitting the next time around has that supposition in their mind without even knowing it. So I tell my client, sit back, let's wait. I really wouldn't be pushing for a plea bargain if I was him. And even if they offer immunity, as enticing as that can be, I still may say no deal. Let's just move forward.
Yeah, I agree with your point, too. We want to hear from the jurors, and so that's obviously going to open up a lot of insight. So, Stacy, how will the people of Baltimore respond to the news of a mistrial? There were protesters marching last night. Do you anticipate that the protest will be peaceful, especially since the walls of justice can move very slowly? Where do you think the city is right now?
Well, I think there was a lot of really negative publicity surrounding the original protests from this case. And there are a lot of parents out there who didn't make national news like the hero mom did for smacking her son in public, but they had conversations around the table. And I've seen already a lot of calls on social media and in the news for people to remain calm. Even the family of Freddie Gray has said, "We are calm, please remain calm." So I do think it's going to be a little different. There are always knuckleheads in any bunch of people, so there may be some isolated incidents, but I think it will be much more peaceful than it was the last go around.
And Adam, quickly, do you anticipate that we're going to hear from jurors? It always seems like they're in the room and they're saying, okay, a vow of silence for everyone, but if someone eventually talks, do you anticipate we're going to hear from some of those jurors opening up about what they thought about this case?
If we do, it won't be for quite a while, because I believe the judge put a gag order on the jurors from speaking to anybody, and he kept their identity anonymous. So no one will really be able to track them down, and I think there might have been the unspoken rule. You can't talk about it. So maybe some point later we'll get the real deal and the real story, and that will really give us an insight of what really went on in the jury room, but not right now.
Stacy, 15 seconds, your best guess. What happens next?
We see very limited protests, and the world continues to rotate on its axis onto another case.
All right, and on to another segment. You guys are great. Stacy Washington, Adam Thompson from New York, thanks to you both. And when we come back, right here on The Hardline, you know, there's an MSNBC commentator that is equating Star Wars with racism. Ed Berliner, as you can imagine, has a lot to say about that. And he's coming right back on this edition of The Hardline.